Check out that mess of oil and coolant that's coming out of this engine. Today we're going to be taking a look at the BMW M62 V8 engine to see what's inside and how it works. Now this is a 4.4 liter V8 engine out of an E39 5 series. Now we're going to be tearing down this engine to examine some of the failure points besides burning and leaking oil like all BMWs do. Now you don't have to go too far to find out why this engine failed. You can just open the oil cap and you'll see that the chain is no longer on the sprocket, which probably means this engine has jumped timing and is toast internally. Now we're going to start by taking a quick look around this engine. You can see on the front of the engine here we have our crank pulley, which is going to drive your accessories such as this AC compressor. We've got the water pump over here with a hydraulic clutch that controls a mechanical fan. We've also got the power steering pump at the bottom here, and then the alternator, which would sit inside of this cavity here because it's actually a water-cooled alternator that uses the engine's coolant to cool it down. Coming across the side here, you can see we've got an external oil filter that runs off of these flexible lines. This here is where your engine mounts would be. We've got our valve cover, which is made of some sort of composite metal, and then we've got our air intake system over here, which is made of plastic. And around the back here you can see we've got a crossover tube that's going to flow coolant between the two heads, and then behind this plate that I've already removed you also have a crossover channel where coolant can flow around the cylinders on either bank. Check out that mess of oil and coolant that's coming out of the bottom of this thing. I might need a bigger drain pan because I feel like oil is mixed with coolant in this. I really wonder what happened inside. Alright, I'm going to start by taking off all these accessories in the front. I can peel off that old belt. I'll remove that AC compressor. Next I'm going to remove this water pump. So there's a hidden water pump bolt behind this crank pulley. So we're going to have to work on that first. First let me see if I can remove this crossover pipe. I should be able to access this water pump bolt just using a wrench. I can't imagine doing a water pump job on this car inside the vehicle, especially if your crank bolt is really stuck. So now I should have that water pump free. And I can lift that out with this really long tube. Wow, that tube is so long. Now this was back in the day before they switched to plastic impellers. It still has a metal one. And inside of this unit, you can see we've got an electrically controlled thermostat as well as a coolant temperature sensor. I should have just done that in the first place to get these hidden bolts out. Well, I don't even have the right socket for this, but at least the motor is not locked up. Now next I want to remove the oil filter and its lines. So there's a 13mm bolt holding it to the engine block here, and I can work that off. Now this is a really stupid design because they've got the oil filter that's externally located, and it's got an extra line here that runs all the way down to the bottom of the oil pan here where your oil filter should be in the first place. They've also run the extra lines over here through the engine mount bracket. So you've got another point of failure there. And as you can see, this entire engine area is all coated in oil anyway, so it just opens it up for more oil leaks. I'm going to remove this engine mount bracket here. And I can take out the long bolt and then the whole bracket. Oh, it broke off. Next I'm going to remove this 13mm. That should free this power steering pump. Two wobbly sockets on that union bolt. And now I can remove that oil filter housing assembly. And it appears that the alternator housing, which has coolant going through it, is actually part of the timing cover. So we're going to take that apart later. Next I'm going to remove the bolts for the valve cover. Now I can pull off the valve cover. And inside the valve cover, things are surprisingly normal. You do have this seal here. That's where your spark plugs go through. And the cover itself is kind of made of a composite material. It's not plastic though. Now of course, as you'll see throughout this engine, valve cover leaks are very common. The entire side of this engine here and the other side is coated with oil, as well as the front of this engine, so that's to be expected. Now underneath this valve cover you can see we've got a timing chain powered setup where we've got the timing chain that goes from the intake side over here to the exhaust side over here. Now the intake gear is BMW's implementation of variable valve timing, which they call VANOs. That is one of the largest failure points on any one of these engines, even more so with the later generation of this engine that had the double VANOs on both the intake and the exhaust side. I'm surprised this motor is actually solidly built because we have this extra bracing over here that braces the cam cover caps all the way through. Other than that, this is a very simple camshaft design where you can see the cam lobes themselves directly come in contact with the buckets on top of the valve, as opposed to having a roller rocker arm system. Now here we are on the passenger side. I'm going to go ahead and pull this valve cover. Nothing really obvious in this valve cover. And underneath this valve cover you can see we do have some carnage. You can see that the timing chain that goes down to the crank here is completely slipped off, and I can hear like there's loose parts inside of there. You can see this here is where the timing chain tensioner would be, and it's fully extracted all the way up. So there's something going on with the chains. You can see this chain here that goes from the intake to the exhaust side is actually in good shape and nice and tight. Now moving up to the top here, you can see that this is a port injected engine only. So you have a simple low pressure fuel pump that's going to connect up to this fuel line over on both sides over here, and you can see the 4 injectors. They're going to eject down into the airstream going into the intake side of the engine. Now the air intake bolts are actually an 11mm. With all the bolts free, I should be able to lift this intake assembly right up. Now taking a look at this air intake, you can see it's got a drive-by-wire throttle body over here with the throttle body motor in here. It's made of plastic and a lot of this oil in typical BMW fashion. And then you've got your 4 intake ports on this side and on this side to feed each head. And on the back here, it looks like we've got a vacuum actuated tumble flow control, which is going to control some valves in there in order to promote better air mixing. The intake also uses these sleeves that sit on top here so that you don't over tighten them and crush the plastic. Now in between here you can see we've got our coolant crossover pipes. That's what's going to go from the water pump up at the front here to the crossover pipe at the back. You've also got this top plate here. Oh, it's loose. Someone's been here before. You've also got the 2 knock sensors over here. That's going to tell you that you didn't put the 94 gas that BMW asked for. Now this engine's got the absolute cleanest valves I've ever seen on an engine that I've taken apart, and that's partly due to the port injection, where it's going to inject gasoline directly down into here and won't allow for any carbon buildup. We've also got this flexi tube inside of here. Not sure what that does, but it's got a hose that's attached over there to the timing side. Alright, at the back here I'm going to work on removing this coolant crossover pipe. And I'll just remove that crossover tube. I like it when crappy engine manufacturers like BMW put these eyelets here on the head so it's easy to pull out because they know you're going to have to change the engine at some point. And next I'm going to remove another 69 bolts holding this secret compartment cover together. Alright, let's see where the treasure lies. It's just a big cover with nothing. And if I pop that off, you can see that someone's already gone with the treasure. But if you did have any gold or treasure you wanted to hide in your engine, this would be a good place to put it. And your treasure is going to be kept nice and warm inside of here because this is the coolant passage from the back to the front of the block. Next we're going to move back to the front of the engine and take off a bunch of these 10mm bolts that hold the timing cover on. I'll take off this timing chain cover here. I'm going to go ahead and remove this timing chain cover here. Now it appears that this engine has broken timing chain cover slides, and you can see there's some spare pieces inside of here, and that's why there's actually no tension on this main chain. And the same thing over on this side. Looks like the slides from this side are actually gone. Now in order to get this timing cover off, there's some bolts here that goes in from the oil pan, which means that we have to remove the oil pan. I've already removed the bolts. Let's give it a little tap here. Okay. And there's the oil pan. Oh my goodness. Look at that carnage. Looks like we've got bits of timing chain slides in here. Uh-oh, this looks like a piece of metal. More timing chain slides. And it is an absolute mess in here with this goopy-like, milkshake-like substance that looks like the product of oil, water, and coolant. Just look at it under there. It is an absolute mess. You can see the oil pickup tube, how dirty it is, and it's all clogged up with this sludge. Even the chain itself is just dripping of this crap. Anyways, the bolts that I'm after are the ones up inside of here that bolt the timing cover to the oil pan. Alright, so the timing cover is loose, but I will have to get that crank bolt out in order to properly see what's going on with this timing chain setup. A little T15 socket to extract this hex bolt that holds this to the head. In order to disassemble this setup, I need to remove these 10mm bolts that are holding this brace on. And I can remove this brace. Now the head bolts are an E12 external Torx. Now like most other German engines, they don't seem to be torqued down too high. Now I'm going to run these off with the impact. And now I can remove the head. Whoa, this one's heavy. Now I can remove the head from this side. Over here on the passenger side, it's supposed to be a V8 engine, but it turned itself into a V7. This piston entirely is missing. You can see the connecting rod inside of there with the wrist pin, but there's no piston head. So going back through the oil pan, my bet is that this is supposed to be a part of the piston that sits inside of here, and it just grenaded itself. Okay, I got something jammed in the crankshaft here, and a big long pipe on my breaker bar. Hopefully I can get this crank bolt free. Yes! Oh, victory. Alright, so with that crank bolt free, I can pop off the timing chain cover. Now here you can see some of the ruins of this timing chain here. We've got the chain itself, which actually looks a little bit damaged in this section here. And then we've got the guide, which is completely eaten out, probably because the chain was slacking around in there, grazing it out. It's going to remove what's left of this timing chain guide. Don't tell me this is part of the... oh my. So BMW has actually made this part of the oil galley to feed the tensioner. This piece that's here is actually the oil separator. It draws up from the sump and goes to that tube that went across the top of the valve cover we saw earlier. I don't see why BMW's had to put that specifically in the timing chain region. They could have put it anywhere else on the block. It's just another part of the carnage when your timing chain guides fail. So just to correct, the timing chain guide itself is made of metal, but the slides themselves are made of plastic. Alright, now we're going to turn the engine over, literally. More mess, more mess. I got my wife's old shirt here that I can go ahead and put down there on my engine stand. Now with the engine flipped over, you can see we have what's left of the oil pump assembly and that tube that feeds the PCV hose. This oil pump is actually driven off of a timing chain off the crankshaft, and that timing chain is actually surprisingly intact. You can see we've got all this muck here that's built up from the oil and coolant mixing together, as well as there's some carnage from the timing chain guides that's stuck into this pickup tube. So not only did this engine mix oil, coolant, and skip timing, probably also starved the bearings from getting proper oil because it was so clogged up. I'm going to remove all these 10mm bolts holding this upper oil pan on. Got all the bolts this time. Yeah, check out the carnage in here. Got more pieces of a piston. This used to be the piston ring. Piston again. A lot of smaller pieces inside of here. I'm going to get all these 10s off with this timing cover. Take off this cover, and we've got the chain here. More carnage. Doesn't seem like there's a tensioner for this chain though. This is a 16 nut. I'm going to unbolt the oil pump from the block. Here's the oil pump. It's covered in this milky stuff. And a closer look at what's left of the oil pickup. Now these M62 engines were able to get over 300 horsepower, and the bottom end is pretty solidly built. You've got the aluminum block, but then you've also got these steel bearing caps that are double bolted, held in by an E-Torx 14, as well as a 13mm that I'm going to remove next. These side bolts are surprisingly short compared to the ones that came out here, but I think that's kind of an advantage because they're in at an angle, so they don't have to take the full force. I'm going to pop off this rear main seal here. Alright, next I'm going to start taking off these connecting rod bolts. We'll start on the missing piston over here. They're E12s. Well, as if it couldn't get any worse, this connecting rod has no bearing, and I can't find it anywhere down in the engine. You can see we've got the wrist pin where the piston once used to sit. It somehow made it past the combustion chamber and down into the oil pan. Here's the connecting rod cap, and it does have a bearing, but as you can see it is pretty scored up. The crankshaft fared a little bit better. It's not too bad or scored up or anything. You can also see some of the damage that this bare connecting rod has done to the block. It's knocked up the corners of the block and even scraped the cylinder wall. So the neighboring piston to that one had some pieces of the piston head inside, and its connecting rod wasn't looking much happier. I didn't even get a top bearing here, so that's also missing from this piston as well. Now these next two bearings definitely had the bearings in them, but check out what happened to the piston head over on this side. It's really scored up and worn out, and conversely, look at the damage to that cylinder wall. If you look at it over from this side, you can see how scraped up and scored up it is. That's so bad. It only happened on the one side. The top side seems fine. Same with the piston, only on the one side. This side seems okay. Like, is there any other failure modes that could happen in this engine besides throwing a connecting rod through the block? This is pretty much what all 8 rod bearings look like. Alright, let's see what these main bearings look. Oh my goodness. Even the main bearings are all torn up and eaten up. I think every single part of this engine suffered pretty badly through its life. Alright, so now with everything disassembled, it's time to remove the last major component from this engine. That's this crankshaft. I've got everything ripped apart, and look at the carnage inside of this engine. All this crap was inside of the engine, including this milkshake. So with all the carnage in this engine, I want to see what's going on inside of this oil filter housing. Oh my goodness. Pretty much the same thing that was inside of the oil pan. This milky residue. This thing is completely clogged inside of there. Can't get any oil to flow in there. The milkshake has completely clogged it up. Now this thing should have a bypass valve. When the filter gets clogged, it just bypasses the filter, but that's just going to make the problem even worse. If you look closely, the shiny stuff is actually bearing material that this thing's caught. It's good that it caught it, but it still ended up all over the engine. Let's see what carnage is inside of this oil pump. Yeah, more of that stinky, milky residue. But essentially this is going to be an eccentric shaft that's going to rotate and allow oil, or in this case milk, to flow through to the exit over here. Now that this engine's finally tore down, we're going to have a closer look at some of these components to see how they work. Now we're going to start at the bottom of the engine here with this oil pan, which pretty much sums it up for this engine. And you can see we've got this mixture of oil and coolant, which forms this substance over here. That could be due to a bad head gasket, a bad oil cooler, or a radiator that allows the coolant and oil to mix together. And you can see it forms this milkshake-like substance. Now this substance is not good at cooling in the cooling system, nor is it good for lubrication in the oil system. Basically it's going to flow through the entire engine and grenade it from inside out. Next up we have the upper oil pan, which is just a big chunk of aluminum. Now you can see here some of the tray here has snapped off because of the carnage that happened inside of the engine. Now typically this is the piece that would carry the oil filter, but instead they've chosen to tap off of that and bring it out to the oil filter that's external. Now this is good for accessibility, being right on top of the engine, but I don't like the fact that you have to run oil through these hoses that could potentially burst, sending your engine to be unlubricated. Next we're going to look at the block here. You can see it's a very simple V8 engine design with the pistons slightly offset from each other so they can connect at the crankshaft. We've also got oil squirters here that are going to line the cylinder walls with oil. Now looking at the front side of the engine where the timing cover is, you can see that we're going to have a main oil galley that runs down the middle here. It's going to feed the crankshaft as well as the connecting rod bearings. You've also got the oil galley that taps off here, which is going to go to the oil filter over on the driver's side. And then we also got some fluid lines that are going to run to those hydraulic chain tensioners. Now the cooling system on the BMWs was a little bit insufficient, especially if you're tracking your car, and that could cause these things to overheat. The cylinders themselves use a semi-closed deck design, which is good for power because they reinforce it in between here, but it's at the expense of cooling capacity. Now the water pump channel is going to be sitting up at the front here through the timing cover, and that's going to fill this entire area with coolant as it passes through the back of the block. We've also had those crossover tubes that we saw earlier that's going to control the coolant exchange between the heads. And here's a closer look inside of the cylinder walls where that pistonless connecting rod was flopping around. And over here, this one had a piston, but it was all grazed up and it damaged the wall. Taking a look at the crankshaft, you can see that the journals are shared between each pair of pistons, and then you've got the balance weights on either side here. 5 main bearings, just like a 4-cylinder engine, but this is doubled up. Now the cool thing about a V8 design is that it's basically 2 4-cylinders put together in a V shape, so they tend to cancel out each other's forces and it becomes a very smooth engine. Now taking a look at the engine head here, you can see that spark plugs and stuff would be easily accessible. Valve covers was a very common thing to leak on these engines, and that would just put oil all over the place. And you've got the cam cap bearings up at the top here, and a very simple cam on bucket design. There's no roller rockers inside of here. Now at the front here we do have the timing chain that goes from the intake side to the exhaust side, and BMW's VANOs or variable valve timing technology. This here is the solenoid that activates that VANOs. This is another common problem on any BMW, that this gear goes bad or any one of these components in the system, causing the engine to lose timing and run really rough. Now looking up underneath this head here, I found even more carnage. It actually ate a valve, and that's because of that pistonless connecting rod that just jamming up and down, and it made a lot of damage on this head over here and completely squashed the spark plug. That's some real carnage. Now luckily the other head fared a little bit better. There's no obvious damage on the bottom here. Now one other flaw in BMWs is that they burn oil, and you can see how small the oil control ring is inside of there. It's pretty easy to get clogged up. So overall, I think what happened was there's a mixture of oil and coolant somewhere in the system, either through the radiator, the oil cooler, or the head gasket, but I can't really see that here. And that caused this milky residue to occur inside of the oil pan. That in turn is cycled through the entire engine. It took out the connecting rod bearings. It also was cycled through the oil pump, causing things to clog up, starving it of lubrication. Now when this slurry reached the chain tensioners, it probably caused it to jump timing, and that's what caused the entire timing chain setup to grenade itself. And when you skip timing, your valve's going to come down and collide with your piston, and then your piston is no longer going to exist along with the valve, and then you end up with more carnage in the system. Now interestingly enough, most of the milky residue was in the bottom half of this engine. I didn't really see anything up inside of the timing chains or inside the heads themselves. So all in all, the BMW M62 is not a very good engine. If you are looking to buy a car with this engine, I would strongly avoid it and go with the more reliable inline 6 version. So remember kids, if you don't want this happening to your engine, make sure you check your oil and coolant every time you fill up gas to see if you can get any telltale signs of this happening before it completely grenades itself. And make sure you check out my secondary channel called Speedcar 100 for other content, and subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one.